All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a huge economic shift happening as we speak. And you know what it all boils down to? A clash of generations, a real divide between business owners. And what's on the line here isn't just companies, it's entire legacies and an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money. And when I say mind-boggling, I really mean it. Look at this number. We're talking about $14 trillion. Trillion with a T. That's the amount of wealth that's tied up in privately owned businesses, all set to change hands in the next decade or so. This isn't just some market trend, folks. It's a seismic event.
So where's all this info coming from? Well, this deep dive is thanks to the 2025 Generational Report from the Exit Planning Institute. They talked to over 1,000 business owners, and what they found reveals a sort of ticking clock on this whole wealth transfer. And, well, some generations are way more prepared for it than others.
So who exactly are the business owners at the center of all this? Let's meet the key players. We've got 3 generations, and as you're about to see, they're writing 3 totally different playbooks for the future of business in America.
And right here is where you can start to see the fundamental conflict. It all comes down to values, right? On one hand, you've got the baby boomers. They built their businesses to last for stability and lifelong commitment. Then there's Gen X, the biggest group in this survey, and for them, it's all about autonomy and work-life balance. And then you have the Millennials. They're driven by purpose and growth, and they often see their current business as just one step on a longer journey.
So, it's one thing to value an exit strategy, but it's another thing entirely to actually do something about it. So how prepared is each generation when we stop talking about values and start looking at the cold, hard data? Let's give them a report card.
The report uses this really simple, but honestly powerful way to measure how ready someone is. They call it the 3 legs of the stool. Just think about it. For a stable exit, you need all 3 legs to be solid. First, there's the personal leg. Who are you without the business? Second, the financial leg. What do you need to live the life you want? And third, the business leg. Is the company itself actually ready to be sold? We're going to use this to grade our players.
Okay, first up, personal readiness. And right out of the gate, we see something pretty wild. Millennials feel the most prepared for what life will be like after they sell their business. But the boomers, the generation closest to retirement, they feel the least ready. It's the complete opposite of what you'd probably expect.
And this chart? Wow, this shows us who is actually putting pen to paper. Of all the business owners out there who have a written personal plan, just look at this breakdown. Gen X and Millennials make up more than 90% of them. The boomers, they're just a tiny slice of that pie. It's pretty clear this isn't about age. It's about actually making a plan.
Now, why they plan is also totally different. For almost half the boomers, the exit is the finish line. It's retirement. But for most millennials, it's what the report calls a boomerang exit. It's a launchpad to go and immediately invest in their next company. And that right there fundamentally changes everything about how and why they plan.
Okay, let's check out the second leg of the stool, the financial one. And you guessed it, the pattern holds. Younger owners are just much more likely to have gone out and gotten professional third-party financial advice. Get this, 68% of millennials have a formal plan in place, but for boomers, that number drops to just 35%.
And this is where it gets really dangerous, especially for the boomers. You've got nearly 3/4 of them saying they absolutely need the money from selling their business to fund their life after work. But only about 1/3 of them have gotten a formal valuation recently. Think about that. They are counting on an asset to fund their entire future without even knowing what it's really worth. All right, now for that third leg, the business itself. And honestly, the divide here is even bigger. It's just stark. An incredible 84% of millennials have already done projects specifically to make their business more valuable for a sale. They're not just sitting around waiting for an exit, they're actively, strategically making their companies more valuable and more attractive to a buyer right now.
This quote from the report's author just nails that modern mindset perfectly. See, exit planning isn't something you do later. It's not in the future tense. It's about building a better, more valuable, more sellable company today. It's just plain good business strategy, period.
When you boil it all down, it really just comes down to this one thing: priority. For more than half of all millennial owners, exit planning is a core part of their business strategy. But for the vast majority of baby boomers, it's still just an afterthought. Even the excuses they give are really telling. For the younger generations, the biggest thing holding them back is time. They say they're just too busy growing the company. But for the boomers, what's the number one reason?
It's that they just don't know how to even start the process.
So what's the final takeaway from this whole generational showdown? The authors of the report, they don't pull any punches. They frame it as an urgent, flashing alarm bell, especially for one generation in particular.
Now, this data isn't meant to be a judgment, it's a serious warning. Boomers are the furthest behind on all three legs of that stool. More than half of them plan to exit in the next 5 years, yet only 5% have put together a professional team to help them do it. The report warns that they are at the highest risk for what it calls profound regret. They're not just risking their financial future, but the entire legacy of the businesses they poured their lives into.
And so, the report leaves us all with this final, really powerful question to think about. Success? That's about what you build for yourself. But significance? That's about building something that can thrive long after you're gone. For millions of business owners who are nearing that finish line, the clock is ticking to decide which one their legacy is going to be.